Hi, everyone. This is Peter Stubbe, your host of Agents of AI, the podcast sponsored by Capto and associated with Capto, the AI agent, AI employee company that is fast growing in Europe and around the globe. And this is our special program where we like to highlight leaders that are just general AI enthusiasts. Today, we're very excited to have a member of the payments space, but we also feature finance professionals and just all sorts of interesting people to help the world with their AI journeys and AI use cases. So please do feel free to reach out to myself or any of the Capto team members if you'd like to be a featured guest. We're open and would love to have additional participants in the program. But let's get on to our featured attendee today. They are the Payments Hound, we will call them for the portion of the anonymized part of the program. Payments Hound, why don't you go and share a little bit more details about yourself? Reminder, no names, no companies. We'll say that at the end. But please, some more about you, your background, maybe to give people a chance to guess who they're hearing from in the start of the show. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. So to give a bit of an overview of myself, for my sins, I've been in the payment space now for 23 years, probably nearing on version 24. Started my career actually technically as an engineer for a small software, which happens to be bought by a larger American business, which has become part of one of the major payment schemes. I've spent quite a bit of my time now in the more recent times working in the gap between acquiring and kind of payment gateway, right at the forefront of customer engagement and payments in a couple of the mainstream kind of acquirers across Europe and the UK. But more recently, becoming more fintech orientated, and I've got the bug to do more startups and perhaps allude to something a bit later on of the latest venture and building something completely new from the ground up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Payments Hound, you are aligned with a lot of the other guests that we had. We really enjoy speaking with people that have had such a strong journey from working at large multinational organizations to now finding their calling with startups and smaller businesses or early stage ventures. So excited to get more into that. I would start by asking, you've been in this space for 23 human years. That's quite a number of dog years too. But, what keeps you coming back, or what do you like most about your career and your role in the space and the payments industry? What excites you about it?
Yeah, awesome question. And interesting enough, I was talking to someone about this recently, is the rate of change and development within this space is always which powers the market. In a way, we're lucky and fortunate that we have big brands and sort of things such as Visa and MasterCard who are always driving forward innovation and change in the market, and us as providers or people within that ecosystem have to kind of maintain and operate within that. And I think one of those things that probably gives you the most excitement within what you do is quite often you can, whether that be card terminals in a store or working with a specific e-com provider, that I did that type of thing. Yeah, I put those there. I helped shape that. I helped do that. Is one of those things where you just get that self pleasure from doing it, and sometimes it is that value. It's not necessarily sometimes the money that you get. It's actually the challenges and solutions that you deliver and the value that you bring customers. And it's something that's been there. It's ingrained in our society now. It's not going anywhere, and it's continuing to grow and evolve. And I think the exciting bit to it as well is there's new different forms and ways of doing it coming through every day. You go back 10 years ago, who thought Apple Pay or Google Pay or the mobile payments environment would be as big as it would be. And whilst Europe is quite quite mature in that market, you then look at some of the other spaces, and I think kind of a developing kind of area such as Latin America and stuff like that is going through the same journeys that perhaps the UK and Europe did 10, 15 years ago. So it's exciting, really.
Yeah. So, well, listen, you can correct me and scold me for making too many dog puns, but I think what you're saying, there's been an opportunity for you to mark your territory along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, even to bring that analogy full circle, it's pretty cool for you to now see maybe work that you've done in your UK home base start to be proliferated around the globe, and say, like, I had a part in driving that forward. That's a really impressive, and I can see how that could be a meaningful part of why you enjoy your career, Payments Hound. So to maybe extend upon that question, what do you feel is underappreciated about the work that you've done, or maybe you feel like is taken for granted? We're talking about insanely complex payment systems and infrastructure that's been developed, as things have changed over the course of time. What do you feel your contributions that, what are people missing? I would say. Yeah.
Again, good question. Look, I was fortunate. I started my career off more technical, and I think that's relatively unique as I moved. And I spent sort of 3-4 years working on more of a technical capability and getting a real deep understanding of actually the industry. Then fortunate to have opportunities to move more into commercial worlds, and that's put, I think, a quite unique aspect on my approach, because actually, yes, you can, commercial people are always, I think, sometimes they get the bad end of the stick, to kind of put a dog pun out there as well, because people feel that sometimes they lack that understanding. So perhaps why I've been so successful is that technical understanding and being able to map the challenges and the difficulties that customers have into the solutions that are there. And I think also sometimes it's not always about pushing that, the square hole into a round, the square plug into a round hole. It's sometimes you're not the right vendor and actually doing right by the customer in order to do that. So I think salespeople and commercial people do get a real bad rep sometimes, and don't get me wrong, some people probably deserve that. We get that, but I think it's also underappreciated of how much they contribute to the business, and how broad a proper commercial person's got to be, because often when a customer needs something, you're the first port of call, regardless of how often you've told them to go to support guys. And you have often got to be that problem solver to not only understand different components, but also be that solutioneer in a certain way to be able to make it all work and have enough understanding to be able to continue the journey and the engagement with those customers. So I think for me that's probably the hardest bit. So I've spent my time probably the last 10 years in more senior level commercial roles, and that can be quite tough when they say you're just a sales guy. Well, actually, there's 23 years worth of knowledge in here, and some of the knowledge we know, we don't even know we know it until it's needed at that point of view.
I can't resist myself. I'm going to use another dog pun. I might have to after each answer. Is that you're not just out there blindly sniffing, right? You're tracking an actual scent, and you have an actual understanding of what you're going after. And I think the point, moving away from the dog puns about not forcing a square peg into a round hole, I think that's something that should hopefully resonate with people in commercial positions who are listening to this. Is that this day and age, it's not merely about how many calls or emails or connections that you make. It's finding the right fit. And I appreciate you calling that out, because it's something that people that are even in hiring positions for commercial people should be acknowledging and understanding of too. That's the value of people in your position, Payments House. So If we can make a little bit of a pivot here to speak about, the core topic of the podcast, which is AI and agentic AI. Can you start us into that direction by talking about when did you start using it? When did you start become aware of it? And this could be, personal, professional. We just would like to get a better understanding of when people first started learning about it and using AI. Just do you recall?
I can't say there's a specific moment where I said, "Well, I'm on the AI kind of
Yeah.
bandwagon," but I think that the topic of conversation, and you would have seen it especially in the payments world over the last sort of 15 years. We had things like big data came in and played, was very, very prominent, and then probably go back 4 or 5 years ago, it was kind of blockchain era. That was driving the market and a lot of change. And I think now we've started to get into that AI orientated kind of messaging, and everything seems to be AI driven. And so I would say that the last kind of 2 to 3 years is when it's become more relevant, and we started looking in certain roles where could we use AI to deliver value into our business, and ideally directly into our customer base.
Yeah.
So that's probably where it's going to come through. More recently, look, I can't imagine, you speak to many people that don't use ChatGPT or one of the other kind of agentic AI tools out there, which I think are driving a lot of change. I think it helps people from a productivity point of view. Are they the silver bullet that changes everything? I'm not convinced at this stage. I joke quite often that I argue with ChatGPT quite a lot, and it can be wrong, and it is wrong quite often. So that's one of those things where I think we've still got that evolution of some of this stuff to come, and trusting it and using it. But I can definitely see a lot of the application of where, especially in payments and some of the legacy providers, where there's a lot of manual tasks that still operate in there, and that are quite cumbersome and hard to operate. And I think where AI comes in isn't necessarily rewriting it or recreating it. Its ability to bring in multiple different data sources, modes of operation, processes into a single kind of process, analyze that at pace and speed, and then kick out a value add at the back end. And that's where we're seeing a lot. I think there's a huge opportunity in the payments world, right from that early engagement from a customer onboarding journey, all the way through to activation, creation of the technology in the middle, even integration. Seen some recently where people are starting to put things like AI agents onto payment terminals.
Okay.
Where you always used to look at that and think, well, the payment terminal was always begrudged in the market. It was a costly thing, and it only ever did one thing, make payments. Whereas now it's starting to get a multiple use. So you start to be able to maybe sweat that asset a little bit more, or it become more engagement. So it helps with your reconciliation, helps with your support query. Something's not working, you get an instant response, and those sorts of things are really nice, all the way through to support and even customer success of being able to manage the life cycle. And I don't think that detracts from people and replaces people. I just think it allows, especially in the legacy world, you to analyze huge amounts of data, which would take humans a lot longer to do.
Yeah. Well, you've done a very good job. Good boy. So I have to keep the joke. Jumping ahead to my next question, we always like to ask guests who have a closer specific domain expertise. So we have the payments hound here. You've already walked through the use case of getting to the customer at the point of payment with AI support or customer success. I think that's an exciting use case that could be coming next. If you don't mind me putting you on the spot, payment hound, is there another one that comes to mind that you could walk us through of like this would be aspirational for you? It'd be something that you would love to see in the payment space go live thanks to the help of AI.
Interesting question. I think think it's when you look at it, and I've done some work recently analysing sort of the pains of the journeys that you see from this, and yeah, and you then align that back to the sort of the core businesses that they're operating, where margins are getting so much smaller, competition is getting so much greater, and the one thing that I alluded it to earlier is customer experience is so important as well, and that's a massive changer or game changer, really, when you can align all three of those. So often to improve customer experience, and you erode your margins. So I think really that a great application would be starting to really see it working properly on an onboarding. And what do I mean by that is, especially when you look at the acquiring world, such a complex onboarding journey, and no one's really nailed it to date yet. And you see somewhere they've had a really good go at it, but they've really just moved a lot of the checks and the complexity to later in the life cycle, and that then causes it. So you kind of kick the can down the road. It's someone else. So you've got the customer on, but you work more on the integration side, and then you do your checks later, and that's when things fall down. So being able to do that full underwriting, KYC, so the full package, the KYB piece, being able to align that into risk and credit risk appetites, but also then align that with cost models. Doing that properly in a single solution at scale, I think would really be a game changer for the market. And I think that's probably the highlight I would go into.
Cool. All right. So one final question in our kind of prepared remarks here, and then we do one final fun tradition at the end. Before we reveal your identity, of course. What advice would you have for a peer who's maybe struggling or hasn't been using AI as much as they would like to? Like, what's the guidance? And this is where we like to hear call outs of potential resources or call them other creators or content people that could be helpful in people's AI journey. What advice would you give to people that are struggling to move as fast as they would like to be?
And it's a really, really good topic and this is where there's such a difference in the payment space, and often you'll get the fintech ones that are fintech businesses where they can be more agile and probably more adopting to some of this technology, but probably don't have the wider customer base because they're relatively new into the market to really impact what's going on. So I think you start to get this into the more traditional kind of legacy players, where inherently it's a challenging market. It's highly regulated. You've got availability and things that are key. Systems have got to be up 100% of the time. There's no option for downtime anymore, and I think the bar's been set very, very high. So the advice would be, I think, find the right partners, and I think that's it now. That you've got to be able to do this and do it right. Is there are so many specialist providers out there now that are embracing AI and are able to move at the pace, create proof of concepts, so that actually you can run those in parallel against your existing infrastructure and do it in a modular fashion. So take small pieces at a time of that customer journey and really look to enhance it would be my advice. And there's some great little providers out there that I think are doing that really, really well.
Nice. Well, we try to keep this podcast brand agnostic. It's sponsored by Capto. I can't help but say the Capto name when you mention a few of those things, because that's something that we really try to pride and focus ourselves on, and with our delivery too, being that niche service provider of AI. But okay, moving very quickly past that because I just broke a rule of the podcast. But anyway, okay. Final question in your anonymized state, payments Hound. Who is your favorite agent of AI? Think of this as somebody who could be a potential future guest or somebody that our audience should be following and listening to. You're welcome to submit multiple, but we would ask for just one.
Good question. no one springs to mind, to be honest. It's I think there's quite a broad different subjects out there of people doing it and people going on. I still don't think, specifically in the payments world, there's one person that's kind of nailed it down completely.
Mm.
So I'll kind of stay there. There's probably not what you're after and the listeners are after, but I think I struggle to kind of pick one that would be this is the one to follow, or one that's kind of doing it down. And I think payments is really open at the moment for innovation and leveraging AI,
Yeah.
especially on the agentic side. And I think there's so many value adds to be had. I think, as I said before, the challenge is linking that complexity and legacy together, because there's some big beasts out there, and most of the traditional old bank-backed acquirers probably struggle with the legacy architecture to be able to move that forward. Plus, regulation adds another layer of complexity into it.
That's no problem. You know what we might do is we'll let you off the hook, or let you off the leash now, and then maybe try to get your submission before we post the episode. So that's perfect. Perfectly well and good. All right. So the big reveal, if you don't mind, Payments Hound, navigating back to your avatar, and if you simply reselect it, it should reveal your normal human identity.
There we go.
There you are. Hey. Well, you know what? I've made it a tradition now that I don't announce the person's name. So please take that honor. Thank you for joining. I'll say thank you for joining us, but please share more about yourself, who you are, and
So for those that don't know me, so Nick Dobson, as I said, 23 years in payments for a number of different businesses, Comms Excel, Transaction Network Services, which ultimately became the MasterCard payment gateway. Spent some time at Barclays. Early career was really focused around kind of tier one retail and card holder present, and it's more in the last 10 years with the econ boom that I've been working on kind of dual roles as senior commercial and leadership with acquirers and kind of joint gateway stacks and things like that. And then more recently, and a bit of a cue for you is we're not far off launching a new business. Myself and a couple of co-founders have spent the last 3 months, and we're not far off building. So we have the company Unitix. So the foundation of that is unified metrics. One of the challenges that we're really seeing is people getting value out of the payments lifecycle. So what we think we've built is that first payments lifecycle intelligence platform, which aggregates all of the kind of relevant payment data together in that lifecycle. We're using AI, and as we should do, to analyze, to match, to do that, but also then to give that understanding and that descriptive understanding of what does that data mean to you as an individual, as a business. How do you optimize that? So how do you get clarity on your business? How do you make sure that you're running in a compliant fashion? But also ultimately with all of this, is how do we grow? How do we use that to do that? And then as that data set grows, you can then start to look at the predictive AI features of, so what happens if I do this? Where do I end up? How do I grow this? What does a new market look for me? How do I compare against the industry? All of that into a single SaaS-based platform. So super excited. It's been a bit of a journey, and we're looking to kind of get into kind of beta and MVP with a selected few of our invite-only kind of customers in mid-December. So if anyone is interested, wants to talk a little bit further, we're happy to consider people. But the stack is quite full at the moment, so we're it's busy time. So
it's a good problem to have, Nick, and congratulations on the journey. Congratulations on the soon-to-be MVP launch. We will certainly be sure to share as much as we possibly can at the time of the release that we release the episode. I want to thank you on behalf of myself for the episode that you just shared now, but also the entire Capto team and the entire Capto community. We've followed you, Nick, on your journey, and we've followed, all that you've publicized and the thought leadership you bring to the payment space, and some of the things that you mentioned around KYC in this call itself have been inspirational, or we've known about those things as we go off to deliver our services as well too. So super helpful. Please, is the final thing I would ask you is, what's the best way to connect with Nick? Nick, I know that you are somewhat active on LinkedIn, but is there any other advice we can certainly leave in the promotional portion, but is there anything you'd like to call out on the episode now as ways to
LinkedIn's spot on, and I'll be a lot more active. I have been a little bit quiet the last few months just because we've been in build mode and it's taken my focus. But if anyone wants to talk a bit more, nick.dobson@unitix.ai is the best email for me, and happy to talk to anyone who has some data challenges or is interested to understand how they make their payments data more intelligent for their business.
Cool. All right.